It wasn't good, but it also wasn't so in your face that you're like, oh, this is clearly, I should run immediately.
Mona's film, which was obviously a huge influence for you, it was, back then, it was so new and fresh, and there were so many things that hasn't been done before. What was the aspect that inspired you the most to do this?
I think you know, obviously Max Schreck's performance is the thing that when you're a kid, when I saw it for the first time, that's the thing that grabs you immediately. Also, like when I saw it, it was like super degraded. Like it was from a 16mm printout on VHS. So like you couldn't see the bald cap and the grease paint. He was just like a vampire. So that added to the, you know, the atmosphere that is there even in the restored versions. And also just that Murnau and his collaborators turned the Stoker novel into a simple fairy tale. And that really appeals to me. And I think it makes it so that I could finally, when I, as an adult, realize like I can do my own thing with this in a much freer way than if I wanted to do Dracula.
What was your experience with horror movies when you were growing up? Were you allowed to watch them? What kind of horror movies did you watch when you were growing up?
I would always sneak, I've got an older brother who's 12 years older than me, and so I would always sneak into like his room and watch his movies when he wasn't around. So I grew up watching like Bruce Lee and RoboCop and Terminator and these like old VHSs of those. But I remember one time The Exorcist was in there and I was too young to be watching it. And I would get too scared and then switch back to TV and watch like the Teletubbies for a little bit so I could calm down and then go back to The Exorcist. So that was my first probably experience of a really terrifying movie. But yeah, I'm similar to you. I wouldn't classify myself necessarily as like a horror genre fan. But there's something about this movie that's so beautiful visually to look at, where it really draws you into the world and you're sitting there standing, and then the tension, Rob's such a master of building tension in the movies that it's just, you kind of suddenly feel like there's this, your heart's slowing or stopping and there's this like pit in your stomach of like what's to come and the scariness of the world, which is kind of magic.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to talk a little bit about the casting process. I want to ask you what was important in finding these characters, and maybe Nicholas, how did you get involved in this project?
I mean, in a lot of ways, like kind of the most important thing is that all the actors want to be there. Like my sets are not like miserable or anything, but it isn't exactly like a fun thing, and it takes a lot of focus and it takes a lot of stamina, and so I want actors who like want to go there. And one of the things that was so enjoyable about making this film is that like Nicholas and Lily, Aaron, Emma, Willem, Bill, everyone was like hungry to be there, and you can see the like rawness and the ferocity of all their performances because they are so like ready to be there. You also need very good cheekbones to be in one of my movies.
I was lucky. I got after seeing The Witch, we went to a bar in Brooklyn, right?
Yeah,
this was like 6 years
ago. That bar's
ago.
not there anymore, sadly, but that was a nice time.
Yeah, so we met up then and kind of stayed in touch loosely, and then you mentioned wanting to do this, and I was like, I mean, I'm such a fan of Rob's movies. Anything he's making, I would love to be a part of, so I feel very lucky to have been in this one, yeah.
And Nicholas, can you remember the first time you saw Bill as Nosferatu?
I remember clearly the first time I heard him because you had a recording of his voice. And instantly, even in that moment, I was like, wow, the voice that you and Bill had developed was so rooted in truth and history, but was so original and something I hadn't expected, where I was like, oh, this is scary. And even though it was just a phone recording, it filled the room in such an imposing way. And then from there, seeing some of the makeup and everything, and it feeling like this very, real character, which made it so scary. And Bill's performance, he's just so committed emotionally and physically, every element that he brings to it. So yeah, the first time seeing him, he was actually it was kind of one of those things where in the scene, Thomas is kind of kept a little bit away and can't quite make out everything that is going on. And I think that was kind of a similar element to me in some ways, where it was kind of, you weren't quite sure of what was going on there, but you knew it wasn't good, but it also wasn't so in your face that you're like, oh, this is clearly, I should run immediately. And that was a good build of the tension through those scenes.
Als wir uns umdrehten, waren einfach alle tot. Der Gestank ihrer Körper war abscheulich vor mir stand.